Going on, everybody? We got another Zapp Comic Radio podcast. A very interesting topic I want to talk about is something that comes up in the store quite often, and it's usually a negative, and I have to flip it and make it a positive to them because, and it might seem weird when we do bring it up that it is actually a positive. It all depends on where and when it happens. But the importance of other stores other than comic book stores that carry comic books is very important in this country, in this world. A lot of people think it's bad, but for us as a retailer who sells comic books, I need books in other places. So unfortunately Joe is not here. He's away this week. I missed the big guy already. But Johnny's here, Mozart's here, and I don't know how we got here, but he's here. We got Nick Minervini. He doesn't have a middle name.
I don't.
We call him Rusty.
That you do.
Affectionately. So Rusty Bottom's over there.
Laquan.
And I am Corey. So I want to talk about this. This is very important because Walmart recently did some exclusives. People are up in arms. Now, it's all about the setting, okay? We're spoiled in this part of the country, you know, with Targets everywhere. There was Toys R Us everywhere. There's comic book stores all within arm's length. But if you go out west, you go north, wherever you go, there's certain areas that you might not even have a comic book store in any of the even the county that you're in. So if a child is not into, doesn't ever get exposed to a comic, he's not, a perfect example is my neighbor. Nicest kid on the planet. I love him. He's 18, I think he'll be 18. He's seen every Marvel movie like 800 times. 800 times. He knows every part of the movie. He knows every part of the history of the characters. He doesn't read comic books. He's just not into it. But he knows them because he's exposed to the movies and that, which is fine. But I don't know if he's ever been to a comic book store because they don't need it. So when I was a kid, I got into comics because my mother went to the supermarket, Shaw's, which are up northeast. I don't know where they are around here, but up in Massachusetts and New England area, they're up there. And she would bring me comics off the comic rack, which is at the very last aisle. Like, say you went to Target now, the end aisle has all the Pokemon cards and baseball cards and blind boxes. They had spinner racks, and she would bring me home, like, Spider-Man, Conan, Batman, New Warriors, whatever was there. She would buy, they were like a 75 cents each. She'd bring them home, and I was reading them. That's how I got into comic books. And then, once I got into them, I'm like, okay, this is number 35. Where would I find the other ones? You find a comic book store. And
did you have one in your town?
I did. I had a comic book / baseball card store, which is what got me hooked on it. But there was one in the next town over too. Like back then, there was more stores.
There were more
baseball cards were so big.
Yeah.
So there was more, and we had a chain called New England Comics by me, and I went to a store called R&R Comics, and that's where it was comic book heaven. I think when I was real young, and then it switched owners and became like in the mid '80s and became comic. But that's where I saw like Ninja Turtles #1 on the wall, like all that stuff. Like I saw that, but I had to get there. So you have, say, in the middle of Indiana or Wisconsin or even in parts of California, there might not be. You were in California, Nick.
Yeah.
What was in that town that you were in?
I lived in Groveland, which was in the middle of nowhere, California, in the center, and the closest Walmart actually was an hour and 45-minute drive away. The nearest comic book store was 3 hours away, because I had to look. I mean, I worked here for 3 years. I wanted to know. So there was nothing around. But it's, like, I grew up in Wayne, and this has always been here. And, it was easy to get comics. So now, like you were saying, for kids that live in the Midwest and don't have mom and pop or big chains like we do on the East and the West Coast, big supermarkets and big stores carry books.
You go to Five Below, they have those four packs of comics. You can buy them.
Yeah.
So you need that. And now, do I want that store next to me? No. But when Barnes & Noble expanded their trade section, it was good because I'm like, this is great because they're not going to carry the selection that we could carry. And it also gets you exposed to it. So, like, when Walking Dead hit the airways, that was the biggest transition I ever saw. When people came in and they were so, like they were so obsessed with it, and they would read Walking Dead so fast, and they're like, what's like it? And I'm like, well, nothing, but this preacher and then whatever, and they were like, okay, what else? And like, well, you read all that type of stuff, so I give you some superhero stuff, and then, there's Dark Knight Returns. Thanks, they're picking up Flash. So it all trickles down. But again, I don't want it in my plaza. But you need it to be exposed. You need exposure to it in any way you can. So, like, Johnny, where would you get your books when you were a kid?
Well, it was
pain. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You couldn't, like, even for me, like, to find like even a corner store, you know, that's always the ones, you know, like they'd have the spinner wrap, whatever. But around me, they really didn't. And, you know, I remember just going, like, you would get randomly at a store, you'd find it.
Yeah.
Or, like...
They'd have, like, the most generic, like, they'd have Transformers or, like, Brave and the Bold or, like, Superpowers or whatever.
Well, I remember which place used to have it. B. Dalton's, Booksellers, you know, that was, like, a thing. And eventually Walden Books had it, too. You just find it randomly.
Yeah,
and
but
then,
they wouldn't have all of it, but they would have a
but,
selection, and you would just... pick it up, and like I remember when I got it, I was a big G.I. Joe fan. That's why I got into comics, and my mother brought me home G.I. Joe comics, and I didn't realize that they had comics. I think what number it was, but I wanted the other ones because it was in the middle of a story. And I remember we would drive to
California,
drive to Florida every year, and my grandparents bought me Transformer books, and it was random numbers like 29, and I would just reread it, and you know, and I go to the store, and they didn't have number whatever, you know, because I didn't know what a comic book store was at the time. I was, you know, younger, but. Well, you're from Brooklyn, right? Mm-hmm. What did you?
I mean, when I'm growing up in Brooklyn, I guess I had everything around because I got introduced to comics via the discount store that was in the neighborhood or when my mom was shopping, and you'd pick up the 3-pack of Batman with a surprise comic in the middle because you couldn't see what it was.
Yeah.
Spider-Man
was it also
was the
Batman?
same one. It was also Batman, yes. Okay. It was, but I got exposed through it that way, and then it was the same kind of way. Like family and friends realized, oh, you like comic books, and then randomly my uncle would pick me up like a pack of obscure comics, like Mr. T and the T-Force in like a 3-pack. But it's like, oh, and then you would read and you would want to find it. You would never find it because no one reads those books, but nonetheless, but it exposed me, and then I had to ask my dad, like, hey, where could we find a comic store? And once he started searching and found it. In Brooklyn, in New York, Manhattan, there was a ton. And then after a while, I was just like, oh my god, I need to go to all of them. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and it just
I know. And I remember
hooked me.
It happens now. Kids come in here and they just want Pokemon cards. And their eyes open up and they look at Pokemon cards. I was like that. I didn't like comics when I was a kid. I was into baseball cards. Comics were on the other side of the store. I never looked at them until I got into G.I. Joe later on. I was into the superheroes when I was a kid. I didn't get them until I was like, 10, 11 years old. That's when I got into the... it was a different world to me, but I wasn't into them. It wasn't. I was sports, and I like cartoons, but I didn't buy it. But I remember, like, my friend would have a Thundercats comic book, but it's like, where'd you get the other ones? And you just don't. You couldn't order it. You just like I don't know. Well, let's find it. But you see what back issues were. I remember I had Turtles number 4, 1985. I brought it into 3rd grade for show and tell. And nobody knew what the heck it was. I'm like, look at this, it's cool. The turtles, they're like,
They're
slicing
ninjas.
people up.
They're
And
ninjas.
I remember at the end of Turtles 4, they find Splinter in this like containment thing, like he's frozen. And I had no idea who Splinter was because he wasn't in the book. So for years, I never knew who Splinter was until they made the reprints of it. I found it years later because I couldn't afford. I remember my mother bringing me to the comic book store and to get the other ones. And number 3, 1 was like $20.
Boy.
2 was 10 and 3 was like $5 or $6. My mom's like, I'm not paying $6 for a comic book. They're like 75 cents.
For a magazine.
If
You know what I mean? So I never had the other ones until later on. I didn't know who Splinter was. I had no idea who he was. It was just a rat.
So I have 2 questions to hark back from the at the start. One, for Walmart's exclusives, was it to a certain publisher or was it like?
Right now it's just DC.
Oh, it's just DC.
All it is basically they're like, are they 100 pages?
Yeah, I believe so.
They're like 100-page square bound books.
Okay.
The majority of it's reprints, but they have new material in it. It's like 7 to 9 pages.
So it's not a new cover for Batman 55.
No.
It's its own printing
Own
of a
thing.
book.
And what they're going to do eventually is that new material will be reprinted in some like a trade or something.
Yes.
Right.
And a lot of people are up in arms. Oh my God! Can you believe Walmart got this? No, this is good. When a major retailer is like, listen,
That means it's hit the mainstream.
it happened with Pops.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, Pops. Well, I got to go to Walgreens now. Yeah, you're going to Walgreens, and guess what? You go to Walgreens every day. You're buying a soda. You're buying a candy. Now it works, and guess what? They keep recycling Pops.
Right.
Same thing with the Marvel Selects too. And to mention what you mentioned before with not Borders. Borders is closed. Barnes and Noble. They have graphic novels, but they stopped selling single issue comics.
Yeah.
They no longer sell single issues. I thought that was interesting.
Well, because majority of readers don't buy single issues.
Yeah.
It's the collectors.
Makes sense.
So, but I want them to go in there and to get Like, look at the manga's changing now. And
Oh, yeah.
Barnes & Noble has a huge section. But when the newest My Hero comes out, they just buy it here.
Yeah.
Because we get it instantly. It's not like ripped and torn. It's nicely put on the shelf. They buy it.
Right.
But you need that. What I'm trying to get to is a lot of people, when the Walmart thing hit, and they're like, oh, you guys must be so mad. I'm like, why would I be mad? Like, it's good. I mean, I don't want it to be where you cannot get it. Like, it's so hard to get. No, but when I go to Five Below, you go to Target, they have 4-pack. Some of the supermarkets they'll have a pack of comics on there. One has Spider-Man, you flip it over, it has Batman on the inside, comics or whatever. That's what you need. You need that. I remember being at Toys R Us in the 90s, and we had, in the generic weird aisle, we had comic book, but they were like themed. Like, you had Gambit 1 through 4. One would have like Green Lantern 48 through 51. Like,
It used to be on like the black racks up front. I remember those at the ends of the aisle.
Yeah.
I remember that. See?
But that's good.
Toys R Us had comic books.
Yeah.
Toys R Us had
And
They did.
the aisle at
They had them on like the
cashiers,
side,
Yeah.
side caps of the
Yeah.
cashiers, and they would have a couple like they did like Batman, like some of the newer ones.
The Simpsons and stuff they would
Simpsons.
do. And
And
stuff.
they did up until
that.
they closed.
Yeah, you need that. You need to have it. You can't have it where it just doesn't exist. Now, I've been to Arizona before, and the only thing in the town where I was this Walmart, which is basically a mall. It was gorgeous. And that's where you went. And I remember going to the town. I found a baseball/comic store, and it was, I think it had been untouched in 1997 because all the cards that were sitting there, everything was there in the same spot. It wasn't touched. It was like there was nothing. It was stale. You go to Walmart, and now if you go there on a Sunday and the kid wants a comic book because he likes Batman, it's an easy gift to give to somebody. It gets them to read, so you're not getting like a boring like learning book.
Right.
It happens. So I just
Don't learn.
but it just like obviously, and it goes to the digital aspect too, where Comixology is out there and other formats. I don't mind when they put like, the first issue for 99 cents or it's free for whatever. I don't mind when the first issues are free because you need to get some exposure to it because everybody has to try it. You just can't assume, okay, everybody's going to read Dark Knight Returns. No, they need to know what it is. Like you don't just sit down and on a menu and order that because it's there. You gotta know what's in it and you need to know to like it. Or can I try it? When you go to get ice cream, they give you a little scooper. Do you want to try it?
But
You
they're
want to
doing
try
that.
the mayonnaise ice cream? No, it shouldn't exist. But some people might want to try it.
I think you should try it. But they're doing that now in print too. Like Marvel now does the reprints of those key issues, like Spider-Man 300,
Yeah.
the first Gambit, and like it gives you, like you were saying, to your point,
Because you don't
that
want to
introduction.
want to buy a $20 trade.
And it's
Right.
like, how many times do we have parents come in here and you guys see us be like, the kid will come on this wall or look in the bins, and I'm like, oh, he can get this one that's $1 and
Right.
it's not going to cost $5.
But
He
that's-
can rip it up at the end and it's fine. But he
that's,
read it.
But that's the key point, right? Especially from a business perspective. When we were introduced to comics, we were kids, relatively young adults. Like right now, the market is gauged so old because there's a lot of collectors, and the collectors are mad when things come out and they can't access them. But it's not for you to access.
Yeah.
The companies are doing it to expand reach to the younger generation because right now the market skews older. Right, which
and
is why like Marvel focus so much on the movies because you're able to introduce kids
And it goes
at a
to-
younger age.
The main reason why Disney bought Marvel and Lucas is because they had problems selling boys toys. Because if you went to a store 10 years ago, the Disney Princess aisle was huge.
That's it, right?
Okay?
Yeah, that was the only
Mickey Mouse I know is iconic, but Mickey Mouse is like Superman.
Right.
Okay? Everybody knows who it is. Nobody buys it. Except for that little
No,
kid.
But
Okay?
the problem with it, they have revitalized Mickey Mouse because they weren't doing anything.
I know.
They kept them under wraps, and they're like.
I know what I'm saying, though,
but
is
now
that
it's more,
a 7-year-old isn't going to buy Mickey Mouse.
No.
A 3-year-old wants it. So now, that's why they kept making...
3-year-olds also giving it, right?
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
why...
As a parent,
No, but it's
you're
on
like,
TV. They like
but as
Yeah.
a parent, like the 3-year-olds,
But
you're kind of like.
that's
here.
why they kept making, even though the Cars movies weren't as successful as the other ones, they kept making Cars movies because Walmart's and Targets had aisles and aisles of die-cast cars.
Right, it's like having Hot Wheels.
They were selling it.
Yeah.
Now they have
Star Wars.
Star Wars. They have aisles of toys. Lightsabers and masks and action figures. Boys' toys. It was always that boys category because I worked at Toys R Us for years. That was the biggest thing Disney had, and that's why all these random companies always had the Disney licenses. Hasbro and Mattel didn't have the good toy. They dropped them. It was always like Thinkway toys, and a couple had. I'm like, why is they making Disney? Because they didn't sell because nobody wanted it because
Right.
it was too kiddie. It was like the weird gap. It stopped at like age 4, and then there was a gap to age 10. So you had that little middle area where kids weren't into it.
But even with
Like we were, but like
The new
10, 15
generation.
years ago, they weren't
Right.
into it.
but See, even with the princess thing though, it wasn't like until like the Frozen thing.
No, way before the Frozen thing.
Yeah, but it was.
Listen,
there,
I know,
wasn't.
but listen, I'm telling you right now, at Toys R Us, the hottest toys were dolls that were based on the Disney princesses.
Yeah.
We had aisles of Barbie dressed up like that.
Like, yeah,
It was a big deal.
No, I know, but
the
that's
Frozen
where
thing, Frozen thing blew it out of
blew it up,
proportion.
you know
but
what I mean?
before that, they had, what I'm trying to say is they had no problem
selling
generating.
that.
selling.
No.
This changed it. So, and now if you go to Disney stores, when they first opened, they were boring. It was just all like Winnie the Pooh, and now there's the whole thing is Marvel. It's Star Wars when you walk in, and then now or whatever, then Incredible.
And they still have the Disney princesses stuff.
Yeah,
of course they do.
Which
But
is-
when you first walk in, they have cool like
but it's,
Star Wars backpacks.
it's a far more like amalgamation of all their properties.
It's diversified.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah,
and then
and
you
it's
go
very
there, like they had,
mainstream, too.
like when Black Panther came out, they had a whole section. It was just awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
They had Planet Hulk select figures.
Yeah, and they had their own. Bringing it back too, they had their own exclusives for Marvel Selects, which made adults with or without kids go in there for the collectors to
Because
get.
I remember when Disney Store came around, I didn't go. I went to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has all the cool properties.
yeah.
Remember the one in Garden State?
Well, I went similar
Yeah.
to. I wasn't around here.
There was one in Manhattan, man. The Warner Brothers store was so awesome.
It was awesome.
And they had the prints and the lithographs
Yes.
upstairs, almost like a
Yeah,
museum.
it was crazy.
Oh, it was so
And they
good.
had you could push the wall would open up, like you would slide it and hit all the
Yeah.
like the cells and stuff
Yeah,
on its
yeah.
side.
I have the Legion.
Oh yeah, the Legion of Superheroes.
What? That's right.
Alex Ross painted it, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, to go back to it, you need it. Like now, it's so big. But it's almost like the comic books are getting almost not forgotten. But like I said, you could be the biggest Marvel nut. You can know the whole history of every Marvel character, even obscure ones. To like, Thanos's little group there to Groot's background and stuff like
Black
that.
Order.
Yeah, all those guys.
Little
Okay,
group.
I don't know who they are because they're fairly new.
Right,
you know?
relatively new.
But you'll never have to pick up a comic book between Wikipedia and movies, which is it's fine. You don't have to. I mean, I know people. It's expensive. Comic books are expensive now.
But I mean, in the same instance, though, they're relatively expensive, right? They're expensive to what we know. But as a parent, you're investing in other things for your kids, right? You may come in and spend $20 on Pokemon cards. You can, when they're younger, like you said, like a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old gets a toy through introduction.
Yes.
They don't really ask for a toy. You know, like what they're exposed to is what they like. When you're 7, then you're like, I see this commercial, I want this. My friend has it, I want this. But as a parent, if you want your kids to show some interest in some of this stuff, you give it to them.
Yeah.
Expose them, and if they like it, great. If they don't, that's how my parents did it.
I don't push things on my kids. They like what they like.
Yeah.
Okay. My daughter, she'll look you in the face and say, I don't like dolls. I never told her I like little animals. I like kitties. I like unicorns. I like whatever. She won't. If you give her a doll, she's like, oh, that's cute, and she kind of cute, and she kind of puts it aside. She'll tell you, I don't. My son, he loves trucks. I didn't say here's a truck. He just likes it, and he just started playing with it. I gave him an action figure. He would just put it over there. And when he went to was R2D2. And Isabella, my daughter, she's 6 now. She's like Teen Titans Go since she was 2. I didn't show it to her. She was in here one day and saw the comic book, and she saw the colors on the thing. And Raven was wearing purple, and she's like, "Look at that little boy. He's green."
Well, it's
and next
funny.
thing he did. I didn't push it on her.
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember you talking about like the how you got introduced to books and the interest in itself, how it grows. Like I remember being younger and my dad introduced me to baseball cards that then led to comics, right? But comics wasn't like I wasn't key hunting like I kind of do now.
Yeah.
It was
kind of.
We'll talk about it later. but it's more like, oh, I got a Spider-Man book. Oh, great, Spider-Man's really interesting. What correlated with that was Spider-Man, the X-Men animated series on Fox. And then because I was into baseball cards and the comic cards came out, like the Marvel masterpieces, and you sat there with your friends looking at the power ratings,
in the back,
and you flip it over,
it
was
tell you
first
his
appearance, and some of them had like the cover.
It had a
So
famous
immediate-
battle, and it would tell you what battle.
Right, and so like immediately I would go to when I got introduced to the comic store and like ask the guy in my little voice, "Can you show me what this is?" And they're like, "Well, that book is X old and it's over there on the wall." And I look at it and it's like, "Oh, it's $30." And if I was looking like I was crazy, like
when
I
I was a
$30
kid,
book.
when I started getting into back issues, the book I collected was Iron Man because all his books were cheap. The only one, number 1 in 55, which wasn't even that expensive. Everything was really cheap for Iron Man, and most of the back issues were $1, $1.50. So I was able to buy, 20 or 30 of them. Like I could just keep going back, and it was nothing like Spider-Man. You'd hit a wall, like, oh, that one's too expensive. All the good ones. It was too old too. and I was able to buy them. So that's one of the reasons why I collected Iron Man, because it was cheap. I mean, I like the character, but it was affordable for me. So I would rather, like, I had $10 on me, I can get 10 books.
Right.
But if I saw that, like, Spider-Man, I'm like, first Hobgoblin's like 20. I can't afford that.
I remember the first back issue, like real back issue, my dad bought me was the first appearance of like Madam Web. It was like a $15 book. I thought I was rich. I thought I had like the ultimate collectible at that point in time.
My first back issue was Secret Wars 8, the alien costume, and that was, I read that thing cover to cover again and again because like, this is the coolest thing. Because like Mozart was mentioning, my introduction was the Fox Spider-Man. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was like, oh, there's a comic book store. And to go to your point, you were saying that like you don't mind that Walmart has them. I think a really good analogy is when kids get into something, they go to like a Dick's Sporting Goods and they buy a bike. And they love riding their bike. And then they start getting into BMX or riding trails. And then you go to a specialty store. And that's what what comic shops are. You get introduced at a big store where they have a little bit of everything. And then once you find what you're into, you divert to
you go to Walmart to get your bicycle or wherever. You go to Dick's to get their equipment, and next thing you know, like you said, you're going to go to a really nice bike shop to get that bike that's made from something NASA uses, and it weighs 2 ounces, and you can spin it on your finger. Yep. Same thing with you when you skate. I'm sure you got a generic board from wherever.
Yeah, Toys R Us.
Okay, and then Toys R Us, but now you're going to skate shops getting the ball bearings that spin for 35 minutes without stopping, which I can't stand on for 3 seconds without falling on
We'll get you pads.
So I need butt pads. But anyway, so how did you like? What was the first big book you bought that wasn't like a regular?
I don't remember.
Because Johnny, years ago, going back almost 10 years, Johnny was buying wall books. The funny thing was, he'd come in and he would just be like, be all Marvel, and it'd be like, the first Justice League, okay? Brave and the Bold 28, and nobody would look at it. And he would be like, oh, should I get that? Or like,
no, I would get
Chew number 1. I'm like, Johnny, I know Chew number 1's hot right now, but that's the first Justice League.
No. That was
Chew number 1's a good book.
I know, it's a great book. It's a great book.
That was between, it was Chew number 1 and Brave and the Bold number 1.
Oh, Brave and the Bold, which that was the only time that we've ever had that in the store. Brave and the Bold number 1 is a Robin Hood story, I believe, right? Or is
it's Silent Night, I think. And
it's from the 50s.
Yeah,
it's from the 50s. So listen, Chew was a red hot book. Chew was red hot. Chew was the hottest book on the planet.
It was number 1. That's the only one I didn't have.
First print number 1, red hot, because they were going to make a TV show.
And
it was huge.
Wait, Brave and the Bold number 1?
No, Chew.
Oh, Chew. Oh.
So he's there looking at the wall, and I'm very honest when I can be. And he's like, "Oh, I should get to Chew." So I go, Johnny. I said, "I'm gonna not to tell you what to do, but I've had about 10 Chew number 1s the past month. That's the only time I've ever seen a Brave and the Bold one in my life, and here it is 10 years later. That's just still the only one I've ever seen, and he bought it.
Is that the one where they're sitting around the table?
No,
that's
Justice League number 1.
The Brave and one is pre-hero.
No. Well, yeah, Justice League number 1.
Brave and the Bold's from 1950s.
It's just got
50s.
3 circles, and it's like
early
Silent
50s.
Night and the other 2, King Prince, and I forget who the other one was.
That sounds right.
But it's like early 50s.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, it's way before the superhero.
Okay. But to go with everybody, they was doing with their first exposure non-thing. See, mine was 2 things. See, like when I was a kid, we had Super Friends. It was on Saturday mornings, Super and also Friends. They played a lot.
And just so you know, when I watched Super Friends, it was very boring. I wasn't into superheroes. I just waited for Aquaman to come on the screen because I like the underwater stuff. So all you Aquaman haters, I don't know what to say to you, but I like him. So anyways, that's the only reason why I watched Super Friends. It was for Aquaman.
Doctor, continue.
And I liked it wasn't, when we were kids, it wasn't on Saturday mornings, the Challenge of the Super Friends. They had other ones on, but that was the one with the Legion of Doom, and I loved that, because that was the only one where they actually had the real villains on it. You know, that's where I got, I think, my thing from Solomon Grundy, because, like, I knew other people, but I'm like, who the hell is this guy, you know? I didn't have access. And the thing that, but again, I didn't have the thing to go for the comic books, and then is the G.I. Joe. I played G.I. Joe, and they put commercials on for the commercial. For the comic book.
And now, learning now, if you watch, like, you know, Toys That Made Us or whatever, you see that the comic books were made to give these characters backstories, which you always just thought, oh, it's an adaptation. No, this is where they came from. This is where they got all their origins that came from those books, the Transformers and G.I. Joe.
And I think with that is, at the same time, you had, with He-Man, they actually put a comic book with the figure. And you get a little mini comic and a thing. So you got exposure from there, you know what I mean? And you know, so then it kind of brought you in to look for these things, you know? Of course, like you said, like finding...
No, and if you go back to G.I. Joe, the big thing with G.I. Joe is number one was always pricey, but number two was even sometimes more pricier because it was rarer, and it was on certain paper, and it was everybody had the second print. And then 26 and 27 were the silent issues where they gave the origin to Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. No, 21 was the silent one. I'm sorry.
Silent one.
It was no words. It was just Snake Eyes. And 26 and 27 were the Storm Shadow origin / Snake Eyes like connection.
And then 49 and 50 were Serpentor.
Yeah, and they were like key books. Like they were expensive, and you can only get. Everybody always had the second prints because they always had them in the 3-packs or whatever it was.
Okay.
So I remember, like, you know, if you ever saw a first print GI Joe on the, number 1 or 2 on the wall, I was like, oh man, because it was like $20 or $30, which was a lot of money back then. But I remember GI Joe. That's when I realized, like, wow, this is a. And the artist was like Herb Trimpe, and it was Larry Hama, all this stuff like that. You would see who it is, and the Transformer covers. They were number 5 with Shockwave. They were all dead. It's a dark, cool cover.
It's a rad cover.
It was
Will they make
awesome.
a shirt of that?
I'm sure they did.
They need to make another. It's a rad shirt.
I'm sure you can find it online somewhere. Most I will make it for you. So.
Me.
You make shirts?
You can do anything.
I mean, I could find someone to do anything.
Fair.
it's, you know.
Most of it's a man of the people.
Yeah.
He finds the people. If he can't do it, he finds them.
Pretty much. Just call me Obama.
So anyway, yeah. So you need to go back to it. Most of our first time seeing things was way before we knew what a comic book store was, and especially now where there not as many. You know, like around here there are multiple, but you go out in certain areas. Like I think about when I go back home. There's New England Comics because it's a chain, but that's in Brockton. But after that, I don't know where the next one is. It's going to be more than a half hour away. So if you're a kid, you're not going there.
Right. But it's also on the publishers, right? Because like, if you think about it from a business perspective, you've always talked about this. You know, like how do you maintain this wall?
Yeah,
you're purchasing these issues, right? And you're expecting to sell a portion of them. I don't even think you expect to sell all of them, but you expect to sell a portion of them. The retailer of those sizes, like Walmart and so on and so forth, even some of the smaller ones, they have to. I don't even think they necessarily know how to gauge the audience to a certain extent to be able to say, okay, I'm going to buy this many titles. I'm going to buy this many issues of that title. Like the publishers need to now do like an outreach to be able to almost like help educate those retailers to kind of expand the market, right? Like,
and you also need that because the more of that you have, the more of the stuff that we like we're going to get. For example, NECA. NECA puts out all those beautiful figures like It and Godzilla and Aliens and Predator.
Jason.
But they also put out those catalogs that you see from like Spencer's and stuff like that with like the Christmas Story lamps and the little tchotchke things that you get from like Night Before Christmas that you get for Christmas. And that's the stuff they make all their money off of because it's inexpensive and it's licensed like that.
Yeah.
The stuff that they're doing that has major tooling for all the joints and the articulation
and the licensing for it.
So if that doesn't work, you're not getting that third Jason figure this year. You're not getting that. So it all comes into play. So it's all one big thing. That's why I hate when people are just like, "That's dumb." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's first off, you don't need to get it. Just don't buy it."
It's true.
Well, why do they make that? Because it's a business. You can't survive off this stuff.
It's gonna be interesting to Mozart's point. How the Walmarts and whatnot, these big stores that are just like volumes, to figure out what they're going to have, what they're not going to have, because there is none of that FaceTime interaction in those stores. It's like not in a negative way. It's like a wheel. People just come in, grab their stuff, leave. You're not having an interpersonal connection.
And go.
Yeah, and talking to somebody.
But it's almost like assigned shelf space. You drop it and go, and then they just reorder.
But it's also like when I go back to the point of like the retailers need to put out these programs.
Yes.
Like working as a person who works in marketing and working with like some of these big corporations, they put together packages for certain distributors. So literally, if you put together a package specifically for different scaled retail and be like, you know what, we're going to offer you this 200 issue package of these titles here. These are our highest selling ones. These are the ones that have the most reach demographically, so on and so forth. Like that will help them out, but they need to invest in those programs to be able to then get a salesperson out to the retailers to be like, this is what we recommend from a distribution standpoint. This is the cost model, so on and so forth. Like they need to invest in that, but that would help overall because, like to your point, like there's no. Most people don't know how to run a shop of this nature.
No,
you have no clue how to do it.
People think, you must read books all day. I'm like, no, I don't. I can't. I don't have time.
Right,
Johnny, when you after G.I. Joe, what books, what superhero, non like G.I. Joe trans, what books were you into? Like the Batman, Superman. Like, what got you going? Like, as far as like collecting comics.
It had to have been like Batman stuff because I remember finding. I think like when I really started finding, I found like Crisis. It was right around then when I really like outside of the G.I. Joe stuff, and I remember doing that, and I remember then finding Who's Who, which I know you make fun of.
Well, but back then, Who's Who? That's all.
Yeah.
I make fun of John Who's Who because he loves all those index type comics, which you now it's just Wikipedia or DC, whatever.
But yeah, that's like the encyclopedia.
Yeah, but back then it's all you had.
Yeah, like I wish I had that.
Yeah,
when
well,
I was
and
a kid.
again, the way we also got it was in the back of the trading cards. It would tell you,
Yeah.
like, or you might get like a pinup page at the back of the book, and it would say like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were that's how you got, or they might release a book every now and then, like the index of they did like Spider-Man and FF, the Marvel indexes, and it was
yeah.
like,
Well, they had the handbook.
the handbooks and stuff like that.
ones.
So that's how you would get them, you know, and that's how you knew.
And I remember. Oh no.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You were saying like yeah, and I think that's what I think the ones that I remember the most because I remember going. Mine was Mr. Collector on Union Ave, and
What town was that?
in Totowa.
Yeah.
He had it was like one side. It used to be in Patterson, but when I found it, it was because it was across from my dentist, and so that's how I.
It's funny because Johnny's a dentist now.
And they
The
had
more
like
you know.
half of the store, like it was like 2 doors, but they were not very big like rooms. So if you went in one door, it was like one building, and it was like the cards. And if you went in the other door, it was the comics. And it wasn't big. Like it was maybe not even the size of this area. And I know you can't see it, but they know what's going on.
Imagine it.
But yeah, and I remember getting different things. But the ones I remember the most are the detective and the that's the one I remember, Detective and Batman and stuff. But I used to get things. I remember that's around the time I remember getting when New Mutants switched over to X-Force.
Yes.
You know, so I remember getting the end. That's why I ended up getting Cable and Deadpool and stuff because it was just that when it was switching over.
Switching over, and it was all the new number
the
ones
Liefeld
and the
stuff.
Liefeld stuff.
The
Yeah,
Liefelds.
I remember getting the Spider-Man. I remember going in and I couldn't wrap my head around. Like, okay, so there's more than one cover, because they had the green cover, the silver, and then the gold one, and I didn't understand.
Was
they
it
weren't
the
like
25th anniversary? What anniversary was that?
It was right before the 30th. It was between 25 and 30.
Okay.
I think. I don't know if it was.
That was across all 4 titles. They had that.
No, I'm talking about Spider-Man #1. The
Oh, not
okay,
amazing.
got you.
No, I made it. I remember
got
seeing like
you.
they had
The
the regular
foil.
green cover.
Yeah.
And then the thing I still don't understand why it came polybagged. There's nothing in the bag. Like X-Force 1 came out and it had a card in it. They had a trading card.
Well, keep it fresh.
I know, but I don't.
Yeah, they didn't want to get it scratched.
But
No, think about it.
no, the green cover isn't metallic.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well, no, again, it went to the collector's thing because even though it wasn't, they didn't want to get it.
I know, but I just
it was
like they
Right.
had the X-Force had the 5 cards you can get, and everybody wants the Deadpool. At the time, everyone wanted the X-Force card. Now it's the Deadpool. I mean, we're not worth much, but people prefer the Deadpool card now. But back then, you wanted the X-Force team card. You didn't want like Shatterstar or whoever else they did.
But he's so cool.
You can have him.
No. It's more of a long shot fan.
You said he's so cool, and I said you can have him. You're like the long shot. I don't like him either.
Sarcasm, Corey.
Oh well, with you, I don't know.
Nothing's wrong with Mojo.
Mojo, no thank you.
It gives me the creeps.
I'm not a Mojo guy.
You've got a lot of mojo.
I do. Mojo Rising.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
Mojo
my
Joseph.
nickname is Mojo.
I used to have a
You can't get
website
enough of
called
me.
Super Toy Mojo.
Yes, I know. Full circle. Full circle.
Like if you told, I remember me and my friend, my best friend Lenny, I had to cut this property's grass, and the comics came out on Fridays at this time, not Wednesdays.
When did that change?
It had to be early '90s.
Okay.
Because I remember when it changed. I was like, "What? I get paid on Fridays. I can't do this." And I realize now why they do it. Because,
What are they doing?
Because the stores were dead all week, and then all of a sudden Friday,
Huh.
the books came out, and then that's when you get paid. So you'd be busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they like, okay, Tuesdays was movies and DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday was comics. So now you got most of the week. Now you have Wednesday through Sunday for having new releases. When it came out on Friday, you had just like a shot in the arm. That was it.
When was video games? Tuesdays?
Oh God,
Oh,
I don't
is it?
remember.
It's Tuesdays or Thursdays?
It's one of the Tuesdays
Was
or
it?
Thursdays.
It
It's
always
one of the
felt like
Ts.
it was always like random for.
I don't think
for
it was a
video
set
games.
day. I don't remember.
No.
Video games was because like
it
that's how
was.
people used to go to like Best Buy.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about before this stuff.
No, I know, but I'm
No.
saying like at the point in time like Best Buy was hot. It was music releases. DVD
I remember every
releases.
Tuesday. I remember
video
going to buy
games,
DVDs and CDs. That's why I love buying CDs.
Because
I
in
go to midnights.
in middle school, we would go to like the midnight releases
Yeah.
for like Halo 3 and stuff, and it was a line of people. I really can't remember the day.
Yeah, but that's why they changed it.
Okay.
Because shop, they took care of the retailers.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you need? Okay,
Right.
give it to us on Wednesday, and then we can have a nice 5-day period as opposed to 3.
That's right.
Because you're busy on the weekends anyway. So, because normally Wednesdays are like, and we always show it's new comic book day, but in the rest of the world, Wednesday's just Wednesday. It doesn't matter.
4 years in a comic shop, never knew that.
Yeah. So, but I only knew because it changed when I remember it happened. So, anyways, me and my friend Lenny would cut this guy. We would split it, and we would go on Friday to get up the street to get the comics. I remember like he liked Cable, and Cable didn't have a series at the time, but I was into X-Men and Silver Surfer and Iron Man. But I remember doing that. But if you had told, I guess how old was I? 10, 11. If you told like 11-year-old me that when I'm like 40 years old, I was going to be an owner of a comic book store like this, I would have been. I would not be able to understand that. Like I'd be like, what? How does that happen? Because it's just you don't understand it. Because you don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, you just go pick up. Like, and that's when you start learning like how it happens. Like books coming on. Like before, we used to get books on Wednesdays in the morning. Now we were always at the mercy of UPS.
Sometimes we still do.
UPS comes in randomly from 10 to 5 o'clock at night, whatever it is. So mind you, we open at 11. I don't have the books yet. So we used to go to the hub in Parsippany, which is about 20 minutes away from here, at 7:30 when they open the doors. And we'd wait, and they would have like all the store stuff, our stuff, and whoever else was in the area, and you would go pick up your stuff. And you would put it in your car or your truck and bring it here. And we would run around like crazy checking these books in. It's a little different back then because they didn't have the whole variant ratio thing like they do now. It would be like 1 in 25. There was no 1 in 1,000. So it wasn't as many, but we would do this. This is only like 10 years ago. And go like that. And only certain specific big stores would get them on Tuesdays. So now, and then they made an option. It's like $2 or $4 extra. You get them on Tuesday. Delivered.
Really?
Hasn't been 10 years though.
Yeah.
Was it? No.
Yeah.
2007?
No, it can't be.
8?
Yeah.
8, sorry.
Yeah. Like
Was
yeah.
it? Because I remember doing.
I used to go there. I remember.
No, I remember, but it had to have been sooner, less time than that. Because I remember going and always doing like for the Tuesday.
Like, for example, my
for Wednesday,
my kid is 6 years old. It was well before my kid was born.
Well, yeah, but that was not well before.
Yeah, it was before I got married. I've been married 7 years.
Because I remember constantly doing the thing with it because it was always the vacation day. Because it was on Monday. If you had a holiday on Monday, it would push the day. Instead of Wednesday, the new books would come in. They would come in on Thursday.
Now there's never really an issue with.
Yeah, the holidays don't disrupt.
No, because they ship the books out, so if you get them on Tuesday anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the Monday holiday doesn't matter.
Right.
It's already out on Friday. It might be sitting somewhere. You're gonna get them on Tuesday
Right,
anyways.
right.
So it doesn't affect it at all. But no, I remember like running over there in my little car and like Ben used to do it,
Your phone
and then I
focus.
started doing it because it just I get at 7:30. I'd get here by 8, and we had from 8. We opened at 11 at the time, not 10, and we had the 3 hours to do it. And I remember we were just running around throwing we had to do the reservist boxes and whatever and getting them out. But if you had to wait for UPS, you wouldn't work because UPS they're like, oh, we need to make sure you get your books on time. No, they just deliver when they're route by. So it just happens. So I don't know how like the retailers get it. Like I think the Walmarts they just get them on their trucks from the warehouse.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a rep that brings them in there. I think they just come in.
Yeah, I think it just comes in
when it comes.
Yeah.
I mean, like
They have such a big distribution.
Yeah, because I remember when we used to do that at Toys R Us, it would be on the regular truck, and it would say comics, and you would just go put on like you'd put out like a case of diapers, same thing,
And again, it's not their bread and butter.
No,
so
it's
people
just a
can't
little
expect
add-on
it.
sale.
Yeah,
but
people.
To go back to it, it's a big deal when someone like Walmart, it's like, hey, listen, we want something exclusive. Or if DC went to them and vice versa.
right.
The fact that they listen. And I'll go to Pops. When you have Walgreens, Hot Topic, anybody else
Barnes
coming
and Noble,
in,
everything.
They have an exclusive Pops. That's a big deal. I know it seems frustrating when you're like, oh, I'm a collector, I want everything. But, they're not... That's a short-term thing. Like, they're just like, okay, we need something new to get you in my store.
I mean, but it does cut the other way because when you start not offending, it's not the right word. When you start pissing off collectors, like because collectors can be good and bad.
Oh yeah, I'm saying you got to make it obtainable.
Exactly.
Yes.
When you make too many things, people stop obsessing with it and say, "Well, if I can't
That's why
get
you
it,
have to do it correctly.
they drop it.
Yeah, if
like a
Walmart
hot
says,
potato.
"Oh, this sold
And-
well, give me, I want a new book every single week for the rest of the year." No. I just mean if you do it. All what I'm trying to say is, I want them to have something there.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily need to be
But
exclusive. I want them to have 4 packs of comics hanging on the wall.
But if you think about it, even if you look at the pops, right? Like the Pokemon
Yeah,
pop
Pikachu
that came
pop.
out. The reason it's not accessible is because of the collectors.
Yes.
Right? Like, the collectors are the ones who bum rushed Target
Well,
to be able to flip it. Because if you go on eBay, you're like, oh, this is not accessible. No, you can go on eBay, there's hundreds of them on eBay, like, immediately.
Yeah.
Like, it's the collectors who cause that. The true people, like collectors / flippers. Like, true collectors want it, right? But flippers, they just want it so they could flip it. Like, that's pretty much it, which
and to
makes
be
it
fair,
unobtainable to some
be fair in all aspects, if you wait in line for 5 hours for something and you get it before me, do whatever you want with it. You earned it.
Oh,
you know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. Time is money. If I figure if I stand in line for 5 hours to just get a chance to get it, I'd rather just pay the $50 for it. It's just me. Just how I am.
That's $10 an hour.
That's how I am.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
am I going to do that?
yeah.
So
No, well,
go to
just
your point.
my experience with it. Because a couple weeks ago, Corey had texted me. He's like, they're coming out with this one. Can you find one for Isabella? So he knows I do my...
And I just said, listen,
things.
to be fair, Johnny goes to Targets in the morning all the time. He just buys toys. He just that's
He's
what
a
he
toy
does.
collector.
He's a toy collector. He just goes and see what's new, and he buys all the superhero stuff for himself and his kids. I always say, like, listen,
If he's looking for something...
if you see this, grab it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. She doesn't need it, but she likes Pikachu. So if you're there, grab one, because chances are I'm not going to see one. He's doing it right now with a Unikitty. Isabella loves Unikitty. They make Unikitty Legos. I don't know why it took so long to come out, because it's a Lego
Movie.
It's a Lego movie,
Property.
and then whatever. So he's doing that. So that's where the story's coming from. I said, Johnny, if you do see a Pikachu, just grab it for me. Don't go out of your way. If you see one, just I'll take it.
And then,
So she can rip open the box and play with it.
like, that's the thing. It wasn't like he wasn't forced me,
Yeah.
So what was it, on
Sunday.
So I do my errands in the morning, I get up early, so I went to Walmart, then I went to Target, and I see a line outside. And I'm like, it's two different things. Either there's a designer came out with something,
Yeah.
and there's a line of people going in there because they try to do that, or there's a video game or something. Because I don't...
Yeah, like a classic Nintendo. or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. So I get online, there was like 20 people on there. So the guy at the end, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, it's for the Pikachu pop, the Pokemon. And he's like, yeah, they only have 5.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
And that's-
exactly. The guy, so I was like, I don't, like, I texted Corey, I'm like, I didn't even know, I'm like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So
Yeah.
he's like,
I'm like, I
that's
don't
fine.
care. It's fine.
So I go in, because I go in
Yeah,
anyway, I'm doing my
5.
shopping, you know what I mean? So I go in and bring my thing, and I'm looking by the toys and doing my regular stuff, and I see them, most of them aren't there anymore because they're not getting it. But, like, the guy had to go in the back and get it out. He bought one, like, the box. It was, like, this big. Like, there must, like, again,
Like, it's a box of 6 pops.
6 pops, and that's all they got. So Target could have done better, because they know it's Pokemon. They could have had...
Yeah, but it's distribution though, right?
But
Because
yeah.
like, think about it, it's corporate. So like, they could have ordered 10,000,
Well, exactly.
But it also
but
goes
then
by
like
volume.
distributed.
It goes by the
to-
volume of the store.
Right.
Now that volume isn't a big store.
Well, yeah, but
So-
still, but
I know,
but
but
it's
say-
more
say-
than a 6. You know what I mean?
But
like,
say they got 6. This is what they need to do. It's good that they're hyping it up.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't hype it up where it's too hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
So what they should do, instead of having 6, they should have like, say, 36.
Mm-hmm.
And had them set an end cap or something. And slowly sell out through the day, and then the next day put out another 36. And do that randomly as it goes. I'm not saying... Back in the old days, they would have dropped a pallet of 500 of them on the floor and said, go nuts like Cabbage Patch Kids.
I love those videos.
Yeah, it's madness. My
Love
mother
those
went
videos.
through that. I remember because she wanted a Cabbage Patch Kids. or
What movie is it with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Turbo Man?
something.
Jingle All the
Oh.
Way.
Jingle All the Way.
Mm.
It's
Well,
always
that's
what
how
I
it
think
used to
about.
be. I remember that's how it was with the Buzz Lightyear.
Oh my god, the Buzz Lightyear.
A lot of the
Power Rangers.
Power Rangers.
Wasn't Tickle Me Elmo like that
Yeah,
too?
Yes.
Beanie Babies.
The funny thing about Tickle Me Elmo was I was working at Toys R Us at the time, and we got them in, and we had to reset the end cap, and we set them all up there, and Sesame Street didn't really sell. It was always, you always had it. It sat there all year round, and then at Christmas time, they would sell for the holidays as gifts. And Elmo was there, and I'm not an Elmo person because Elmo wasn't around when we were kids. He came out later, and we would when we cleaned the store at the night, that end cap never sold. So we would press them all and see which one would shake off first. Like, okay, which one is it? And then one of them would fall off. And like, I won. One of those things. And all of a sudden, one day, they were all gone. And the phone was ringing off because Rosie O'Donnell had a show, and she showed it off. And then the capitalized on that. Then they did the Sing and Snow Ernie. which was still hot, but
it's not the.
But at the same time, you had the Furbies, you had the Tamagotchis. But
those-
the thing
those
is, we would
Furbies
get
were
pallets
possessed.
of them and just rip them over.
The hamsters.
They were.
Remember the
The ones that...
Zuzu
no,
Pets?
no, Zuzu Pets. Yeah,
But that was like that's more recent.
that's
though.
more. Yeah, a couple. That's
It's
like 5 years or
no,
so.
it's like 10 years.
No,
10 years.
it's not. It's not 10 years.
Johnny,
Cause I remember being at Target.
Johnny, when I first started working here, we carried Zuzu Pets. That was like 10 or 12 years ago.
What about
I
Neopets?
swear to you. I swear to you. Before that, it was Webkins, and then Zuzu Pets came out. I'm not kidding you. It was 10 years ago. I know it doesn't seem like it was. It was. Check out Zuzu Pets. I swear to you.
What is it?
Z-U-Z-U?
No, I think it's
No.
Z's S-U.
I think so. ZSU.
Look when they came out. I swear to
will.
you. It was like 10 years ago.
But it's funny but it's hard to see with those toys. It's hard to predict what the kids are gonna want.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
like,
That's why you
can't
can.
predict.
No, yeah.
Did you order this stuff?
Yeah.
And it's
6 months
it's like
to
a
8 months
9-month
ahead of time.
process. You got to
Yeah.
order it, design it. It takes 6 months to build it, and you have to like. That's what people don't realize. Like, for example, like, say, on a Wednesday, something happened in Teen Titans. Okay, we order 50 copies of Teen Titans just to sell them through. Okay, all of a sudden that morning, like they introduce a new character, they're gone. You can't order more. I'm like, no, I ordered that book 3 months ago,
Right.
and then I did the final order cut off a month ago. So that just came out this morning. You just can't.
Right.
I
They
can't
don't
read
realize
the
that
book
I
8
can't.
months
I
ahead of
can't
time.
go in the back and just make them.
Right.
And it's worse with toys. Like when McFarlane's were hot, somebody would get traded.
20 years ago?
Make another one. I'm like, they can't. They got to retool it because
Right.
he was on the Yankees. It had stripes on it. Now he's on like the Rangers and doesn't have stripes.
You know, like that.
Pops are different. Pops they can do it really fast. That's why
Right.
pops come out very
Right,
fast.
because
It's
it's
a
a
very
mold.
It's just
Yeah,
a mold.
mold.
There's nothing on it that's
Right.
three-dimensional except for like the eyes normally.
Right.
I mean, they can tweak it if they want, but that's why it's very different.
But it's frustrating, right? Because to me, because you've told those stories before, and it's just like, why are people so ignorant to their own
Devices.
hobby?
Yeah.
Because
Like
you
how
know,
how do you not realize these things?
'Cause
And the only reason you are on this this fix on a brand new character is because you're following on social media. That didn't exist.
No, but the other thing
you know,
is,
like
too,
the
is
only
somebody will
reason
come
you
in,
even know
like,
the
for example,
the-
somebody
the-
comes in right now in the year 2018. They say, "I really need a Brave and the Bold 28. Can you get me one?" I'm like, "Well, not unless one comes in."
Right.
But I'm just like, "You can go on eBay right now. You can go to Comic Link and just
Yeah.
buy one.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? You don't have to wait for me. I'm glad you're asking me to get you one.
Sure.
But I just can't say, okay, let me go to the Brave and Bold store and pick one
Right.
off the tree. I just can't do
But
it.
that's what I'm saying. Like how, in 2018, as a collector, how are you so ignorant to your own hobby? Like that to me is so odd because you have you know it's a valuable book, right? You know the history of the book, but yet you don't know how to obtain it. Like that seems strange.
Whoa. That's a lot of math.
people don't like see,
Apparently.
it's like I like to eat steak, but I don't like how it's made. Like people just are totally oblivious. Like they don't like to know
That's
the
a good
history.
analogy. I didn't realize that. Yeah,
You know-
they don't know how it's made. They just
Because it's just like I like the history
Cow
of stuff.
dies.
I'm the same way. If I like a TV show, I research the whole history of it, where it came from, what the actor was on. And some people just goes, "Oh, that was a nice show," and they just move on. And I say to them, like, "Really? How'd you know that?" I'm like, "I looked it up. I went online. I looked up like what does this mean? Why is this show taking place in this town?" And I
Which
looked
can
it
be
up.
about anything, too, because I know when I started reading books, I didn't mean to cut anybody off, I would read a book, and someone would be like, "Oh, so you really like that writer?" And I'd be like, "Oh, who writes it?" They're like, "You don't know?" It's like, "No, I just read the story." But you could ask me about something else, and I'll tell you every obscure thing, and it's just like, people want to dive into it as much as they want, but
I got some guys that buy Spider-Man. They've been buying Spider-Man here since I started, and they couldn't tell you one Spider-Man artist. They go, "No, I just read Spider-Man." And sometimes they just don't look at it like that, which I get it. Like sometimes you watch a movie and like, oh, you can tell so and so directed it because this happens. I don't know. I know if it's good or bad, and sometimes it's bad and I still like it. I don't know.
You know what's? But it's also interesting.
I like The Last Jedi. What are you gonna do?
Starship Troopers.
That was awful.
No, Starship
I saw it in the
Troopers.
theater
That
opening
was
night.
good.
I had a hard
Starship
time.
Troopers is great.
I saw that opening night in the theater. I had a hard time watching it, and I'm going to get killed for this. Zombieland isn't good either. I almost walked out.
Can we do a Starship Troopers podcast?
No, I'm not doing the Starship Troopers.
Come on! Come on!
No, it's not good.
Can we have a vote? A podcast vote?
No,
It's already happening. It's in ether.
You're just a villain. You just came off the bench for Joe Ott. You're not even going to be here next time. You're lucky you're here now.
Oh, I'll be here. I'll be here.
What are you going to do? Hide under the table. You'll pop up in the middle of it.
Oh yeah. I'll be in the ceiling.
Just drop down.
Like Dwight in the office.
No, I'm just like.
gosh.
Yeah, I like Zombieland. I'm sorry.
How'd you get kicked off the island so quickly?
I'm always
He's on the island. That's the problem.
I'm on the island.
He goes, this is, Nick works with us on Wednesdays, and he's like, so, you doing a podcast? And I know what he's
Wait,
doing.
I prefaced it with
no,
what?
No, wait.
Oh, no.
And then I go, yeah. He goes, oh, what's it on? So I tell him, he's like, so, who's doing it? So I'm like, me, Johnny, Mozart, Joe's away. Oh, well, I have nothing to do. You be okay if I could be on it?
I'm sorry I chose social interaction over binge watching My Hero Academia as a 25-year-old man. I apologize. I wanted to see humans.
Nick's always welcome on here. We love Nick. So go ahead, Johnny.
No, I was just saying, like, it's interesting to to know about the history of this stuff and the outside of just reading it, because like you understand why they do certain things in the book, why certain characters are used, why they say, like, the one that's coming up to mind is like, well, like, it's back is like Detective Comics. It went to $1 book, and the reason why was because they were going to cancel it, and Batman Family was more successful, so which was $1 book.
Really?
Yep. So they saved the book.
70s?
Yeah, late 70s during the implosion. So it was like, another thing, like, it's a little bit off. Like I think about it, it's like MGM Studios, Disney. They used to have a backlot thing, and you used to watch them make films and stuff, and do stuff like that. And then they stopped doing all this stuff, and they did a backlight, but it wasn't the same. They didn't do it, and I didn't ever really understood it. And finally, I got a book about it. They talked about it before MGM was there. Turner owned it, or was it? So that's who Disney or whoever did it made the agreement with when they were doing it. But afterwards, Turner took it, sold it. They just took the movies for the Turner Classics, and then they sold it to another thing. So then MGM, this other new MGM, was pissed off at the way that it was set up and everything like that. And they said, when they started doing, they said, well, you can only do recreation. You can't do real live and everything like that. And that's why they phased it out, because MGM was mad about it. But I didn't know. You just don't understand. You know what I mean? But now it makes sense. Oh, that's why they didn't do it anymore.
But now you're also more accessible to, you can find that information now. Well, 30 years ago, unless you knew,
well, exactly.
You just, executive.
I think of all these stories, my grandparents or my mom would tell me, I'm like, that's not even what it was, but you just heard it from these three people, and you just told it, oh, this helps this, and you read it no, don't use that. That actually makes it worse. When I had a kid, the first thing they say to you is, do not use baby powder. It's the worst thing for a child. All it does is irritate their lungs. That's all it does. Don't use it. That's the number one thing. They say, do not give any baby powder. Because when you go, they breathe it in.
Oh, okay. I was confused on the location of where the baby powder was going.
It does nothing for the baby. And they tell you, don't bring it. We don't want it in the hospital. Don't ever use it. I never use baby powder. Don't use it. But my parents and my grandparents and all that, the first thing they give you is baby powder when you have a kid. And they put it like you putting salt on the steak.
Do you think there's almost, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this, do you think there's almost too much knowledge now about how the behind the scenes about how movies are made and spoilers and stuff like that, and there's no mystery to it? Sometimes I like knowing who's showing up in Star Wars, and other times
for example,
control of that.
We think about
yes,
it,
but to an extent you also don't, because it's everywhere.
Well, the thing is, for example,
please,
if you from my opinion, if you've gotten to a point where you are exacerbated on spoilers and trailers, and you comicrealm.com, whatever, I'm just making something up, on Facebook, and you're seeing all these posts, you know what you do? You go unfollow. There's an option, because it's a big database. That's one.
Yes.
Two, it's what it does now, it's evolution, right?
Of course.
Everything changes as time goes on. So now you have all these spoilers out there. It's on the movie theaters, the producers, and to be able to come up with an innovative way to, outside of that, to market yourself. Like music artists now.
Yeah.
Right? They don't do long-winded album release. They just literally go, oh, it's Tuesday? I feel like dropping a new album. Boom. All it is a social media drop.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And now they don't need the big publicity.
The problem with on the movie part, though, it also can backfire, though, because if you do try and hide things, the audience instantly gets mad. Like what I hated the most was the first Venom trailer. Okay, it was a teaser. The teaser trailer hits tomorrow. They tease you with a little taste of Venom, and people are like, that trailer was awful. It didn't show Venom. It's a teaser.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's the point, though. That's what I'm saying. That's the point. That
but it was advertised as
you,
a teaser, and they
right.
teased you with it, and everybody got mad because they didn't give them what they wanted.
That's what I'm talking about, like innovation, right? So, like for example, if I'm a third party looking at social media and what has it done, it's created a troll,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You complain about every single little thing about everything. Don't tease the trailer. Just drop the trailer. Just why give people the opportunity to comment on anything?
Well, I don't
Just
care about
drop
the
it.
commenting on it. I'm
No,
just saying,
but I'm saying that the comments are the complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
So
like,
therefore, so that because
Where's
and
the
now
teaser?
and then the thing is now those comments that are essentially on something that's incomplete, right? Is then a reflection on the Rotten Tomato ratings. In reality, the movie didn't come out yet, right? The in Infinity Wars, there was no spoilers. They put out the letter saying you gag orders on everything.
Yeah.
Do not talk, and it made the movie that much better.
Yeah.
Right. And
unless you read the book and there was no spoilers at all.
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah, that's the thing.
but they know from a mass audience
Yeah, I know,
perspective.
obviously, no, I
they
know.
didn't read the
I'm
book,
just saying.
but what I'm saying is that look at the innovation it took Marvel, which is just everyone shut up,
One of the
or we
biggest,
sue you.
Yeah.
One of the biggest marketing, not marketing, but one of the biggest flops as far as products and stuff like that was E.T. Because they wouldn't let anybody see what that alien looked like until the movie came out. And the movie was huge. It took 6 months to a year for this product to come out. By then it was already over, but you ordered everything.
But the video game was so good.
The video game was awful, and they buried
But-
tons
Yes.
of it. But the thing is, though,
Fantastic
they
documentary.
couldn't make it for them because he wanted to keep it a secret, and then it backfired because they lost a lot of money. And then you go to the opposite. Episode 1, they put Darth Maul's face on everything. Like, oh my
Everything.
god, this is the next Darth Vader. He's in it for 4 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's over.
Spoiler.
Well, that was
That's not smart.
No, he comes back.
Yeah, well, no,
No, I know, but I'm talking
You know,
about
but that was actually a good.
Yeah,
good
no, that was a
spoiler.
great-
I didn't know. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't
no
know
one-
anything, and I went in, and when it came up, I was like, "Oh wow!" You know, I was
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, Solo did a great
Solo.
job of
Oh.
hiding, what might be, in my opinion, the only big saving grace part of that film, why we had to go into why he's named Han Solo is beyond me, is like Darth Maul pops up and it's him and he's got robot legs. And like everyone that I knew didn't know that was going to happen. And then
Yeah,
everyone
nobody
at the
knew
same
that.
time had the epiphany of, wow, those prequels matter now? And then the movie ended. But yeah, like sometimes they hide it really well enough. It's the way
Right.
Marvel does it or the way...
Right,
Well,
but
they're all by the same company. Yeah.
it's like in that sense, it's interconnected storytelling.
Yes.
Right. Like you sit down and here's the original saga, and then someone's smart enough to be like, you know what, we're doing a prequel. Let's make sure it interconnects in some way, shape, or form.
But that just shows
to
you
keep
that,
people
that
kind of
when you
engaged.
have a property and you run it correctly, where like Marvel, I guarantee if you can get into Marvel's little secret room, they have stuff laid out for another 20 years.
Absolutely.
Like all these movies. That's why when these things get moved and like the Inhumans thing kept getting pushed around, because they kept like moving. That was just a placeholder.
Yeah.
And they ended up using it on, and it didn't work out. But anyways, like that's what they do. They were just placeholders for what's coming out, and that's what DC should do.
But also because they don't know, because something might come along that's big.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
But you have a placeholder there, though.
well,
You know what I mean? It's there.
yes.
Right.
Well, they wanted to push Inhumans because they wanted to make them
Because they didn't have FF.
Yeah, well, they didn't have X-Men. That was their-
FF X-Men didn't have them. You know,
that,
they
that
wanted
was
to
the
use
thing.
that's
They
the
were
next thing they could use.
replacement, and everybody was like, "They don't replace the X-Men."
Yeah.
So it's
not
like,
gonna work.
Right.
yeah.
But
I
you
mean,
have such
it-
long hair.
Guardians worked.
Pretty lame.
I mean, but that's.
well, we'll see with the third one. I'm not, like.
Well,
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. The first two were successful.
The new Venom trailer that came out, today's what, Thursday? It came out
2 days ago.
Oh, today's Wednesday. Came out Monday.
Monday?
The new trailer looks rad. This is the coolest Venom's ever looked.
But that's the thing. Like, to your point, I
Yeah.
thought it looked good,
Yeah.
but you read the comment section.
No,
it's
because
like,
you know what it is? They're
but
going
you
to
got-
hate that movie no matter what.
You're gonna hate it because he doesn't have the symbol,
But
and
it
it's
can't
no
have the
Spider-Man.
symbol. It didn't touch Spider-Man yet.
Right, but the thing
no,
is,
no, that's not Venom.
Oh, it's
but,
Venom, baby.
But that's what I'm saying. But
I have no
now,
problem
we
with
think
it.
about now as comic book fans,
Yeah.
we know, and it makes sense. Like, okay, big deal. Again, it's also a movie. it shouldn't affect your life that much.
I need
But
sleep.
the random average fan, they don't. They complain about stuff they never read about before.
Yeah.
They complain about stuff like they only see in the movie. You've seen Venom in like the Disney XD Spider-Man. Like you have no idea about the actual history, but you're complaining.
And he's changed so much.
Yeah. from when he's come in
when he
to,
first came in,
to
and sometimes
now?
people only know him from like 10
Didn't
years
issue
ago.
4 change the origin?
Yes.
And they changed everything. And
They changed it.
Deadpool apparently was the second person to have the black costume.
Yeah.
Before Eddie was. So it went Spider-Man, Deadpool, Eddie.
Yeah.
Now, so it changes, and people don't.
It's also like these characters have been around for ages. Ages.
Like a perfect
Things
example
change.
is Green
Not always for
Lantern.
the better.
Green Lantern's origin was always the same.
Yeah.
When Sir crashes.
It's still
There you go. John's brought in the Red Lantern aspect of it, but it was just kind of like on the side. It wasn't there, and it just kind of added a layer to the story. It didn't change it. You can do it correctly as long as
Yeah.
it's done right and it's more acceptable.
Well, creative
It works.
writing.
Yeah, but sometimes, but it's also it didn't do the right. Sometimes it's the publisher, whoever. This needs to be in there. They just shove it in there.
Yeah, of course.
Was
Same thing with movies.
Straczynski, when he Brand New Day,
Yeah.
he was getting. Thank God social media wasn't like it is now.
Oh.
He's like, listen, guys, Spider-Man ain't my character. I told the story. I wrote the story I was told to write.
Yeah.
Like not my character. Okay, I'm not like you got to understand. Like Spider-Man isn't his character.
Yeah.
They give you a direction. You just have to go on.
Well, I think they're starting to figure it out, which shouldn't have taken this long. That you don't have to have the comic book reflect the other media.
It
the
doesn't
other medium.
matter.
Mhm.
As
Yeah.
long as you keep it simple. The easiest thing to do is when the movie or show is based on something specific. Okay? Infinity Gauntlet, very easy to sell. This is it. Just read this. What about the other stuff? Crusade and all that? Nope.
No.
Read Infinity Gauntlet. That's all you need to read. You don't need to read Infinity War. Just read Infinity Gauntlet. Watchmen. Just read Watchmen. Walking Dead. Just read Walking Dead. The problem is like, oh, here's Spider-Man. What do we read? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I can't really tell
well,
you.
that's also because, like, think about it. How many times can you tell Spider-Man's origin, Batman's origin, Superman's origin? People know he's an alien.
No, but not even
This
that.
a rich guy
You
whose
can tell
parents
it.
died, and you got bit by a
by a
You
spider.
can tell it very easily. Just in the classic Superman.
But that's
movie.
why. But
The intro shows the entire
right.
origin.
But it's like even like in
you don't need to tell
Homecoming.
it.
Yeah.
Some people didn't like Homecoming. Some people did like Homecoming. I liked Homecoming
I like
because you know
Homecoming.
what? I know Spider-Man. I don't need to dive into Spider-Man anymore.
No, but they
if you
could've- but
if
they
you
could've done
realize
it
they
just
could
in the
have. But if
intro.
you realize what ended up happening is that in Spider-Man is that a lot of Spider-Man Homecoming is based off of Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, like the Miles Morales series is embedded like the themes in
Yeah. His best
Homecoming.
friend.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, it's like if you watch anything, especially the '80s TV shows, the intro had its own theme song, and it would show you what happened. Like who's the boss? You would see him pull up, knock on the door, and you're like, okay, well, this is what happened. Perfect strangers. He's coming from one area, he's coming from the other area, and they go together.
Oh, perfect.
So, like, you know what I mean? You can the intro showed you what it was. So
That's how you knew the Fonz was cool. He was by that jukebox.
you know what I mean? But you kind of it was like a little intro for 30 seconds. In a movie, it can be 2 or 3 minutes. The entire intro, and you're fine.
Sorry, what is the theme song to Happy Days? The when it came on the air, first came on the air. What was the theme song?
I mean, I'm not going to sing it right now.
What was
Rock
it?
Around the Clock.
Yeah, rock on the
Yeah.
clock.
Yeah.
Rock Around the Clock.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say Happy Days.
No,
But you can tell they're in that.
Yeah,
The
well,
little,
no, the first one at first, yeah, they did
Yeah,
Rock
but-
Around, and then they did
Yeah.
the Happy
Didn't
Days.
it? Wasn't it both at one time?
No, it was
No.
Rock Around the Clock. Like
What was
the
what
first
was the
season.
end credit?
Just the same. They
Same?
didn't sing it. It was
It's just kinda like
the
a
music
fading
to
music.
Happy
Okay.
Days.
Also,
Right?
I was so young. I don't even think I was born when it came out. So I'm talking
Yeah,
about
no,
reruns.
no,
Unfair
exactly.
question.
Oh yeah.
no, but either way, though,
No,
like,
you're talking about how you
but
were
either
talking about
way, it introduced you to it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you
Right.
can do a nice 2-minute, beautiful song, whatever it's written for the movie or it's when you take from it, and you can just kind of show like meteorites coming down, and things exploding, and creature coming out of it, and you can kind of figure out, okay, that's where you can delve into it afterward, but you don't have to stop the movie and say, I'm going to school, I'm getting bit by a spider. You don't have to show
Yeah.
it.
I
You
think
don't have to
too,
show
like
it.
on the complete flip side, I know nothing about sports. You can all vouch for that. I know who Babe Ruth is. I know that he played for the Yankees and the Red Sox first, and like I don't need like everybody knows these. The origin story of Babe Ruth. Like everyone knows these universal facts. Like everyone knows Bruce Wayne, kid,
from
parents died.
Baltimore.
That's it. Like they're just some of these universal things. So you don't even have to put it in the intro. Either you're gonna go sit the movie, have that question, and you end up in a Walmart, or then you end up in a Zapp Comics, or you saw it, you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Well,
wash
that's the
your
thing,
hands.
right? You think about the three major, the three most popular characters have also had the largest problems movie telling wise.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. The iconic characters worldwide. You do not need to tell everybody their origin again. Like, you don't need to focus on it. Just create a good.
The problem with it too is you
it's
have
a good,
different
strong
generations
movie.
that have like
Different
Batman. You
films.
have the '60s Batman guys,
Right.
You have the Keaton Batman guys. So it's
But
all
you-
like you have a different version.
But
of it too.
but the origin is all the same, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
even in the Keaton Batman, the origin is there.
No, it's different. Joker kills the parents.
Right, but still,
Which is awful.
but the origin is there.
Yeah.
The
It's not Joe
mythos,
Chill, but it's a guy.
the
with a gun.
mythos
The
is
mythos,
there,
yeah.
right? You know exactly what happened.
See, I like, even though I know it's the. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Even though it's the Joker doing it, I like that better than the
Joe Chill?
Batman Begins one. Because
Batman
they went to
Begins
the
one.
movies.
No, it was the
And,
opera in Batman Begins.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In the Keaton one, they went. See, that's the thing. Like, Batman, his family was, even though they were rich, like that was the thing. That they were taught him to be
Humble.
to help people.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And going to the movies is something like everybody could do.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's something like no matter if you're rich or poor,
You can go.
you can go to the movies. He was seeing Zorro, and it was just a random act of violence. In Batman Begins, no, they're at the opera,
Right.
which is elitist right off the
But
bat.
but the thing about it,
They did take the subway there.
But but that Batman trilogy was also Bruce Wayne being elitist
Yes.
and having to be humble. So it almost took like a different
yeah, it was not.
different skew to the
Yeah.
Batman mythos there. But it was still
At a whole.
At a whole, like it's still Batman. So in reality, did you have to tell the whole myth again? Like for example, after they had that trilogy, even though DC disconnected, when they did Batman versus Superman, the whole Martha thing was unnecessary.
Oh.
Like, come on.
Well,
We all
Martha!
know. Like, why do you need to start the movie with him and the parents? Like, why do you need to do
Because
that?
it's safe.
Wait,
It-
I don't remember.
but is
that
it
part.
safe though?
It's safe.
No, but
it's
that's-
What was
safe.
the thing?
They'd
Wait,
rather
I don't
do it
remember.
safely.
So-
That's why.
But
So
for example, right, and here's why I look at DC and I'm always confused of how they do movies, because Gail, my wife, loves watching the animated movies.
Because they're
Right,
better.
the animated movies are so good.
Because they're taken right from the source material.
So, like for example,
It's
the
also
Suicide
not Warner
Squad
Brothers.
movie, the Suicide Squad movie in I think it's like Attack on Arkham or
Yeah.
something like that, is essentially the Suicide Squad movie as a test run, but it's so much better.
Because this is the
It's
problem.
like-
Because you have the DC guys getting the movie ready, and you have Warner Brothers, which is a bunch of suits and businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
It has to go through them, and that's where it all
Like
changes.
what happened with Green Lantern.
Yeah, this happens.
Yeah, I
if you
brought
look
that up.
at the promo art and
The book, the Green Lantern book.
it looks like Green Lantern, which John and all them envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time it got up to them, it's out of their hand. They can't go up to them, and Warner Brothers executive say no because Warner Brothers owns them. They're
But
like,
that's
no.
but that's like working. Like for example, I've worked on Disney properties before, and they have such a style guide to
Yeah.
their
That eye has to look the same in
that-
every single thing they do.
They have 10 pages on pixie dust.
Yes.
What? Like it was. We used
It
to
has
send
to
them.
match
We had to
everything.
send them back. Like we had to send them designs. We were doing like what's the name of that movie? Mastermind, and we sent them back designs with like pixie dust in areas. They're like, no. There's too much pixie in the dust.
Yeah.
Refer to page 68 of the style guide
Everything
to scale back down.
They want it where that kid's sock and that kid's shoe and that kid's underwear, the cup, the bowl, the hat, the toy,
Yeah.
the movie, everything looks exactly the same. The same style,
Exact-
the same
and
color,
that's where
on
like
the cheek,
you could tell
everything.
like to your point that the Warner Brothers entities, they don't have that overarching creative director, that person with executive power
Yeah.
to be like that doesn't match, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Every
Like
shirt
it's almost
and a
like
match. They don't
what
do
they
that.
consider like the brand police, like on the marketing side, they consider like no, that's off brand. Don't do that.
They do because I mean they have a style guide. I mean it's the Garcia Lopez.
Yeah.
Did the? I mean it's the '80s, but they still use that style guide.
Like the stuff we grew up on was
Explains a
the most
that like the Super Friends thing, like
yeah.
not Super Friends,
Superpowers.
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 Like that style, like Garcia Lopez, he did it, and like he did the whole style guide, and they still use it out there. If you look at like certain the shirts and stuff, it's still the same thing.
That's why his stuff's on a lot of the bed sheets and all that stuff.
Yeah, like that, the Target shirts and stuff, and
But to counter this point, having a style guide for like Disney or DC or Marvel is really great in the creative side of the mass production of it. So the movies, the toys. Where I hope there's never a style guide is for in the books.
Well, that's different.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just like putting it.
But that's a different.
But remember,
artist
but think about it too, though.
Yes, but that's an important thing.
but they used to have it. I'm sorry, Mark.
Oh,
No,
no.
I'm gonna say one clarifying point though. Like for example, when I worked on the Disney, there's a Disney style guide,
Yes.
right? There was an overarching global, but that was very general. How to treat the Disney logo, how to treat certain elements. But then there was a style guide specific for the movie,
Okay.
right? So, for example, what's his name? It's Andy. What's the cover
Kaufman.
artist name? No. The cover artist, Andy Gorvin,
For what?
Marvel cover artist. Eddie.
Artie Granoff?
Yes. I follow him, and he showed off the style guide for Black Panther because he did the concept art, right? And there's a style guide specific for that one movie. There's a style guide specific for, a character in the comic,
Yes.
right? How they're drawn, and what elements are supposed to be global. What elements can be changed for artist renditions. So, like, when I look at the Warner Brothers Disney properties, it's like, you had a style guide for Batman vs Superman, and that's everything had to look a certain way, which is fine. Have it look a certain way, but who's the creative visionary that says that is a mess?
Yeah.
Don't do that, right? Like, that is a disconnect to this. You're combining too many storylines. Like, who has that vision? To Corey's point, like, it feels like it just goes straight up to Suits.
Yeah.
Who've never read a comic book in their life and don't even understand, like, oh, great.
Well,
send that out there. And they don't get it.
They also have such a thing about anything that's successful with Marvel stuff, they won't do. Then I'm not saying copy it, but if you see something, like, you know what I mean, they're just like, I don't want to do it.
Though, to that
Aquaman.
point, Aquaman versus Black Panther?
Looks just like Black Panther.
Holy,
Same movie.
You have to watch. There's a video that's going around social media where it's literally second by second, frame by frame, the Black Panther trailer.
Oh, they cut it the same way?
Exactly
That's
the
fine.
same way.
That's all you need to do.
Exactly
Just
the
show the
same.
formula.
So basically, it's underwater Wakanda.
Yeah. And you can tell
That's
with
basically what it
Aquaman
is.
that this is the first time that they're trying to do, and I think with Shazam too, which personally I think that looks really bad, Shazam, they're trying to do fun, like, quote-unquote smart funny, like Guardians. Like, it's not totally serious, but there's some lighthearted comedy there.
Well,
Because
Wonder Woman was
And
lighthearted.
in Justice League, dude, they had stuff in here that
Well,
was
why do you
lighter.
think Shazam looks bad?
I think it, I don't know. I never read much of Shazam. I don't like the actor
You
personally.
know that when he becomes Shazam, he's still a kid, right?
Yeah. No.
There's
Corey,
different
I've
things
worked
with
at... Wait, pause.
No, but a lot of people,
Pause.
like, that's
wait,
why they...
Wait, pause. I've worked at a comic book store for 4 years. I know when Shazam says Shazam, he's a bigger version of himself. I get that.
I was making sure. A lot of people don't know that.
I know, which is weird.
Like, the other day, I
but
put a
another...
post up about the Super Pets movie.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Coming out.
that's awesome.
I was like, that's the worst thing ever. You kidding me? And somebody was like, yo, man, it's animated. Oh, thank God. Sorry.
Oh. I saw the...
But so, another big thing about it is, I think it looks weird. I don't like Zachary Levi as a thing. For some reason, DC still can't do their costumes right. But I'm just saying, like, you can see DC with Aquaman and Shazam trying to do something that isn't dark, brooding Zack Snyder, because they've looked at the numbers and they're like, wow,
Right.
we're still getting the
And-
pants beat off.
and-
maybe it's time to try
But
something
also
new.
think about it, like they tried to do the best of both worlds with Justice League, and it failed.
Yeah.
Poorly. Like,
Yeah.
And to keep in mind, I'm
That
very like anal to make sure everything works fine here.
It's my
And-
fault.
And every time somebody messes up, it's usually Johnny. Everything's
It's
funny.
always my fault.
I don't
Today
know
was
why.
my fault.
He
The
just,
laptop's still
I
on.
saw the
it
thing.
doesn't matter. He runs over here in the little podcast to shut off the lights on the case. What does it have to do with anything we're doing?
He's
It's his
saving you
Father's
power.
Day, so-
But either way, all the rest of the lights in the store are off.
I know. I'm sorry. I
But it's
apologize.
plugged into that.
I wasn't thinking
strip.
about that.
God!
Let's all agree, Justice League, bad film.
I never saw it.
No, it
I'm
was-
assuming it's bad.
yeah, it
I
was,
fell asleep.
to me, it was
Wonder Woman's fantastic.
Yeah.
Except for the Ares part, I didn't really care for. But the movie
yeah, the
itself's
very
good.
to me, Wonder Woman was the best DC movie. 90%,
I
95%.
love the sidekicks. I love the little warrior guys.
95%. When it got to the ending in the fight scene, it was basically
But that's
Batman
most
versus
movies.
Superman.
Most
It was
movies
just
have
like,
that problem.
oh, you just turned into
But it
Batman
worked
versus
so good the
Superman.
first time.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. but I think Wonder Woman set the bar, and then they went away from it with Justice League because they tried to do this amalgamation of brooding but funny, and I'm like, okay, the
wasn't
funny worked with Flash. Funny doesn't work with Batman.
But
And Batman was
Funny work with
trusting,
Batman when he makes you feel uncomfortable.
but
like
Batman told his physical identity to everybody.
Oh,
when,
yeah.
When does he do that? Like, how is that Batman? That's never Batman.
Yeah, but you know what? They had to do something different, and it fit for the movie. You know, what I mean, they do know who he is. You know, what I mean, like I mean,
but in a lot of the material, half the Justice League, a lot of the material don't know who Batman is.
But here's the thing,
that's
though.
a big point in the animated show, in the books,
Yeah.
is that no one knows who he is, but I think Superman
knows who
But
he
they
is.
also
no,
have-
no,
but
they know who he is. They know in the Justice League. They know
not in the animated one, not for a long
But that's
time.
what I'm
But
saying.
it's a different thing.
But
you
look
know
at
what I mean? Like,
what I was saying. The Justice League came out as live action film. They did a Justice League movie animated like a year or so before. It was the exact same movie because it's New 52 Justice League. It's not even old school Justice League. It was the exact same movie with the exact same villain done way better.
Yeah, that's because DC animated
better.
one of the best animated.
It's like you guys
catalogs.
succeeded here. Replicate it.
because you know why? Because they're so asphyxiated with that Dark Knight trilogy, and they think every movie is Batman. So they try to make it like Batman, dark and brooding and
But the
not
Dark
funny.
Knight trilogy was not that type of dark.
Or
but-
that
but-
good.
You know,
that's
it
what they
wasn't
think.
that type of like Batman vs Superman feels the kind of dark where it's like I'm sitting in a room and I'm just shaking back and forth and the world sucks. But that wasn't the Dark Knight trilogy. It was dark because it was the world isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to overcome certain things but literally Batman vs Superman was so massively depressing. It's like he's a rich kid. Why is he so upset?
Because he
everything?
doesn't.
Robin's dead.
Because he doesn't have a best friend with a mom with the same name. Come on, Mozart. You only be best friends if your mom has the same name.
I don't know how this got to that movie. I want to blame Johnny for shutting the light off on that.
I didn't get the blame.
Anyways, thank you all for listening. I'm glad. I hope we got to the point where my point came across. Where
Our point.
as a store owner, you need other outlets for comic books. Again, I don't want it at the store next door to me, but if malls and newsstands and bookstores and Walmarts and Targets and whatever else maybe has some type of comic, it doesn't have to be like the newest one, but if they have it accessible to someone, it's a good thing. And if you have a kid or a nephew or whatever, pick up a comic and just throw it their way. That's how we got involved in it. I know the movies are helping, but they're not necessarily reading the books. And if you do see a book, the other thing about spoilers is that on the other end of it, real quick, is I need to know the spoilers because I need to know before you know what book is going to get hot. Because if this villain's going to pop up in the movie, I can't go into everybody's like, oh, did you see the movie? I'm like, no, but I know everything about it because I need to know that this movie involves Joker, this movie involves Red Hood, because that's the stuff I need to order, whether it's his first appearance is going up. Well, more importantly, I need to make sure the trades are in stock. Because now everybody's going to start. If the new say they're introducing Jane Foster Thor in the movies, I need to make sure those trades are in stock to put on the shelf. Or Captain Marvel trades are on the shelf, which are not available from Marvel doesn't have in stock, which is very frustrating.
They don't have Captain Marvel?
They don't have the first volumes.
What are they doing? That whole reprint the cover again?
No, it's just they don't have it available.
That was with Infinity.
Infinity Gauntlet. We didn't have it for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That should never happen.
No, that's
and it just so you know, DC's never let that happen. Watchmen was always available. Hush is always available. Long Halloween's available. Killing Joke's available. Every major DC title is always available.
They're doing an animated Hush.
Yes.
Which I'm so excited for.
Major,
Right.
so. But anyways, yeah, to go into that, I want other stores to have comic books. It's good. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody calm down.
Ah!
So, almost had a perfect night until,
I didn't do it.
Johnny Knoll did something. But very random. It's
Hey,
okay,
Corey,
Johnny.
can I come back?
No, because I think once Joe realizes this happened without him, it wasn't planned. He's just away, and I can't do it the next few weeks. And he knows that you were in his place.
He loves me. Joe, I love you.
Oh, we all love Joe. But I
But
don't
Joe
know.
loves me. All right, guys.
So anyways, for Mozart, for Nick, for Johnny Knoll, I am Corey Brown. We're at Zapp Comics in the Zapp Comics Radio Podcast. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Good night.
Zapp Comics